Join me on Thursday, May 10th at 5 p.m. Eastern for the 9 Key Ps of Digital Citizenship, sponsored by NetRef. Just go to coolcatteacher.com/NetRef and stay tuned at the end of the show to learn more about a special offer from NetRef. Using Edtech to Enhance Learning, Episode 302. The 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with Vicki Davis. Every weekday, you'll learn powerful, practical ways to be a more remarkable teacher today. Using technology to enhance learning. Today, we're talking to Bethany Petty, the author of UsingEducationalTechnology.com. Bethany, where do we start with finding technology that actually improves learning and that we're not just using because it's new and it's cool?
You know, I think that's one of the things that kind of scares some teachers a little bit when it comes to integrating technology tools in their classroom is, sometimes they might be afraid of using a new tool because maybe they don't see how it's really going to enhance the learning of their students. And that can kind of almost make some teachers shut down. But I think it's really important that whenever we're looking at this wealth of technology tools we have in our 21st century lives, that we really ask ourselves if the focus of the tool is to enhance student learning, or are we just using the tool because it's new and trendy and flashy, just so we can say that we use it? In my book, I go through a few different ways that teachers can use technology. So we use technology to engage our students. And how do we use technology to do that? What kind of tools can we use to engage students in content? What kind of tools can we use to encourage our students to collaborate and to communicate? And basically just how we can use all of this great information that we have available to us as teachers, how we can use that to really benefit and enhance the learning experience for our students.
Dare I ask you what some of your favorite tools are?
Oh my goodness, I've got a list. I'm a high school social studies teacher, and I teach American government, and then I also teach dual credit social studies. In my American government class, I run an in-class flip. We are constantly, my students are engaging in instructional videos, they're completing formative assessment, they're working together, they're collaborating, they're trying to figure things out. And it's just a busy hub of excitement and work. So some of my favorites are obviously Google Classroom. I mean, when Google came out with Classroom, they really knocked it out of the park. And that has really been one of those tools that really has made my life easier as a teacher, trying to keep track of student work and provide timely feedback. We also use Edpuzzle in my class all the time.
Oh, I do too. I love it.
Oh, Edpuzzle is just fabulous because, you can embed that formative assessment right there in the video. The students get to rewatch it. That's my kids say that sometimes when I get really excited about stuff, I talk really fast. That's one of the perks of the in-class flip and with using Edpuzzle is that they can rewind and pause Mrs. Petty, which is great. So I really love that too. So I can, provide them with that great feedback and then also monitor their progress and see, how I can help them on an individual level. We also, I don't know where we would be without Kahoot and quizzes and Quizlet Live. In the classroom, the formative assessment is extremely important. Those tools just make it fun. Whenever your students walk in and say, are we going to Kahoot today? And they're asking about whether or not they're going to be assessed, basically. I mean, that's so great that they get excited about sharing what they know. So those are just a few of my favorites.
Now, when you're using these tools, it's obviously how you use the tools, right? Just because you use Edpuzzle doesn't mean you're using it right. And just because you're using Kahoot doesn't mean you're using it right?
Exactly. Yes. So that's kind of like what I talk about in my book, that, we're using these tools not just to use them because, they're the latest buzzword or whatever, but because they're truly going to enhance the learning environment for our students. So whenever I use tools like Kahoot and quizzes and Edpuzzle, they provide us with that awesome data that we can look at and we can say, okay, this is where I'm effective. This is where my students are really knocking it out of the park. This is where maybe we need to go back and revisit this. Maybe this is something that I can create collaborative groups, or we can use some scaffolding or some of those other great strategies. And the technology that we use, it just really helps clear up all of that data for us. Previously in years past, teachers may have had to use Scantrons or may have had to rely on paper pencil tests. And, how do you provide great feedback, efficient and quick feedback with those kind of things? And how are you truly measuring what your students know? So tools like like those great formative assessment tools, they really help give teachers and students a clear picture of the learning that's going on.
So what's the most remarkable thing you've learned how to do with technology as it relates to learning in the last 3 years?
Well, things have changed so much in my classroom. This is my 10th year teaching, but about 4 years ago, my building went one-to-one with Google Chromebooks. And I don't ever really suggest that people just dive headfirst into something new, but oh my gosh, that's what I did. I was like, I've got these Chromebooks. I am going to use them. And that first year, I flipped my classroom. I created a YouTube channel. I was like, we are going to do it all right away. And fortunately, it was well received. But I mean, looking back, I'm thinking, oh, Bethany, what were we thinking? But I would say probably the ability to connect with my students using technology has really just been transformative for me. We're teaching these digital natives, and they're living in this technology-rich environment, but so often they focus less on how it can be used in the classroom and focus more on, well, let's, use Snapchat and everything or FaceTime to connect with people. Well, we were fortunate enough a couple of years ago to have a Google Hangout with our United States Congressman, which was absolutely awesome because he was in his office in Washington, D.C., and my students got to, using our Chromebook, and we were able to talk to him. We were able to see his office. We plugged it in with my projector in the front of my room, and my students asked me if they could take a selfie with our congressman. And I was immediately just like, oh my gosh, did they seriously just ask to take a selfie with a sitting congressman? But that's what they did. And it was awesome. And we've been able to do things like that. Since then, my dual credit students work with classes in other countries. We do global collaborations. Right now, we're working with a class in Belgium, and we're preparing to have a Google Hangout with them. So really, the ability to kind of break down barriers, traditional classroom learning barriers, has just been amazing for me and my students.
When you think about it, why did it work for you? What was the one right thing that you did that you think, okay, this really made a difference?
Well, I think that, not necessarily just one specific tool that I used, but I think the way I approached this with my students, and also the way that I still approach this with my students. Anytime we try something new, try a new tool or new strategy, I always just say, we're going to try something different today, and here's why. And I think that it's going to benefit you. I think it's going to create a more engaging learning experience for you. And I have juniors and seniors. So when I say that to them, they say, oh, okay, Mrs. Petty, they're going to give me the benefit of the doubt most of the time. So I think the big thing that I did at the beginning was always trying to make sure they knew what the why was behind what we were doing. Because if you don't have your students buy in, if you don't communicate that the reason that we're using this, and the reason is not just because we have to use technology. The reason is because this is going to enhance your learning. I think that was really what I did that was beneficial. And then also to solicit student feedback, because, they're the customers. They're the reason that we're doing what we're doing. So I think that just as it's important for teachers to formatively assess their students based on, what their students are learning, it's also important that we ask them, is this working for you? I'm making a fool of myself on YouTube, but is this working for you? And if it's not working for you, then we need to fix it. I started rapping on YouTube a few years ago because that's what's going to help my kids, and that's what I'm going to do. Just that helping them know the why and then soliciting their feedback, I think, as we go has been really great.
Bethany, could you give us a quick pep talk on really using technology to improve learning as we finish up?
It's important, and I say this in my book, try not to be overwhelmed. When I started using technology, like I said, did all the things right away. And you don't have to do that. You can pick a couple of different tools or a couple of different strategies that you can use to enhance your student learning. And that's great. And that's awesome, because what we're doing is we have the best job and the most important job in the world. We are designing these learning experiences for our students, and our students are going to go out into the world and run the world and be amazing people. And if we can do something, if we can plant those seeds in our classroom to enhance that environment, to get them more engaged, if technology can help us do that, then that's awesome.
Check the show notes for ways to connect with Bethany and to read her blog and to find out all about what she's doing. And I'm inspired too to just remember, to ask my students to get feedback. These are things that are really helping teachers use technology, where it's not really about the technology, it's really about the relationship. And when you have that great relationship, you can really do lots of things with your students and with technology.
Absolutely, yes. It's not about the tech, it's how you use it.
On Thursday, May 10th at 5 p.m. Eastern, I'll be sharing the 9 key P's of digital citizenship in a webinar sponsored by NetRef. I've written about these on Edutopia and in my book, Reinventing Writing. But I have some updates about how I teach these 9 important aspects of digital citizenship. Join us for the webinar or sign up to have the webinar emailed to you after it's completed. I appreciate NetRef for sponsoring this webinar on an important topic and for offering all attendees a free pilot of their internet management and monitoring solution. Sign up today for the webinar at coolcatteacher.com/netref. That's coolcatteacher.com/NETREF. Thank you for listening to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. You can download the show notes and see the archive at coolcatteacher.com/podcast. Never stop learning.